There are things which are too good to exist, like the Peerless Assassin 120 SC. It's good. No, it's really more than okay, but the thing is, it is ridiculously affordable. But before we get to that, the PE120SC is a relatively normal looking cooler. It's a dual tower design, up to 155mm high, built symmetrically. Each tower got 50 fins, with the last one being painted in black. And in the bottom it is rocking a copper nickel plated base with 6 heat pipes which are sticking out in the top. Heatsink wise, it seems like an absolutely standard air cooler, nothing extravagant, nothing like extra to notice, and the only thing that could be considered like remotely as out of place are these hooks at the end of each fin. For the fans, the pattern really continues. On the right side and in between the heatsink, we got the same in-house made TL-C12C fans. These are 120mm PWM fans spinning at max 1550 RPM whilst pushing up to 66.17 CFM at up to 1.53mm of H2O and yelling at up to 25.6 dBA. So again, nothing special, slightly weak on the static pressure side, but considering that the heatsink really isn't that dense, that the fan should do it. And on that note, given the symmetrical heatsink mounted as default, the right fan would allow you to use RAM that is up to 30mm high. But as everything is mounted using clips, you are perfectly capable of moving that fan up until you have the space that you need. So with a bit of adjustment, that thing will really fit no matter what RAM you come up with. So far, a very inconspicuous cooler, and if the all-black design is nothing for you, it also exists in RGB and white with RGB. Just don't confuse it with the non-SE model, that's a different story. Looks quite normal, nothing that stands out, and not even the fans have any rubber going around the holes for additional vibration absorption. And the box looks like the peak of inconspicuousness. A simple brown box featuring a bit of imagery and features. Inside we will find the heatsink accompanied by the 2 fans, mounting hardware for all the nowadays relevant sockets, some thermal paste and a 1 to 2 PWM splitter to connect both fans on the same header. To install the cooler on AMD, we first need to remove the pre-installed retention brackets and replace them with the AMD spacers, followed by the 2 brackets with the central part pointing inwards, and then screw everything down. Over on Intel, we need to take the backplate according to the socket, position it behind the motherboard, slap the appropriate spacers on top, followed by the retention brackets, and then screw everything down. From there on both sockets, use some of that thermal paste and screw down the cooler. So far, really nothing about the Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120 SC could be considered spectacular. And how about performance? We benchmarked the cooler on our standardized benchmark machine featuring a 3900K with 3 different presets, 120, 250 and 320 watts. Starting on the lowest 120 watts workload, which would be the most indicative of an average gaming session, the PA120SC did pretty good. At 34.1 degrees C above ambient, the Thermalright cooler landed somewhat in the middle of our benchmark list. But not on a bad spot, right besides the Nokia NHU12A and Gandia's Boreas P1. Really not a bad place to be in. But the thing is, considering the average dual tower, dual fan cooler we are usually looking on nowadays, at 2 or at least one 140mm fan. But on here we got just 2 120s which are spinning at, let's say, only 1500 RPM. And that makes the whole thing kind of quiet, which may be the reason why its noise to performance ratio is quite a bit better than its burst. By slowly lowering the fan speed in 10% steps and measuring the temps and noise at each stop, we can create these noise to performance lines. And it is here where the PA120SE started to truly shine. At 120 watts, the noise to performance line of the PA120SE looks shockingly good. From start to finish, the PA120 landed an inch behind the Deepcool Assassin 4. But compared to things like the Scythe Fuma 2, Scythe Fuma 3, Cougar Forza 135 or Gandia's Boreas P1, the Peerless Assassin flat out won by a bit. Once we turned the power to 250 watts, things changed to the better. At 65.1 degrees C above ambient, the 120SE isn't competing with the NHD12A anymore, but it is going for the NHD15. And considering that we are looking at only 7 heat pipe coolers after the PA120 ND15, this is one of the best results in its class. But the corresponding noise to performance graph looks a lot different from what we would have expected. Instead of repeating the pattern, the PA120SE now started to compete with the Deepcool Assassin 4. At higher RPMs, the Thermalright cooler has the lead, whilst the Assassin 4 takes over after about 70% fan speed. Kinda interesting to see that 7 heat pipes coolers do not always mean better performance, like at all settings. But something that shocked us or me quite hard, this thing survived a 320 watts workload. Hitting the PA120SE with 320 watts actually did not make the machine instantly shut down. And at 86.7 degrees C above ambient, it did it. But to put things into perspective, except for the Assassin, neither the Darkrock Pro 5 nor PA120SE are like cooling it down. They are just barely hanging on there, and as soon as you even look at the fan speed setting, the machine will just thermal throttle instantly. So the noise to performance line is actually just a dot. But still, this is not appropriate for a 320 watts permanent workload. No air cooler is. If your use case requires that type of load for more than just like a burst hit, consider something that includes water. But hey, this is the only 6 heat pipe cooler on the 320 watts list, so it's kind of impressive nonetheless. And in that regard, it kind of beat the Nokia NHD15 in one category, which is impressive. So performance-wise, this thing is really solid. Sure, it's not breaking any records for neither gaming nor like harder workloads, but for gaming it's among the top 10 or maybe like top 7, and once you go harder it actually gets better and starts competing with coolers which are quite a lot higher or have a lot bigger fans. And that, while it doesn't seem like it should, which to me is what makes this so special. There is nothing extravagant about it, no extra features or huge amount of heat pipes. It's just your average 155mm high dual tower with 6 heat pipes and 2 120mm fans. But despite it looking very average, while also being highly compatible with your average mid-tower case because of the 155mm height, it is keeping up with some very important alternatives. But there is more. The most fascinating thing about this is I can get it right here and now for 35 bucks. 35 bucks. There are fans that cost more. So would I get it? Yes, I would. It's not even a bang versus bang for the buck question here. Sure, there are coolers that perform better. It's not a chart topper. But as far as air coolers are considered, no matter if low or high workload, it is among the best, and it outperforms quite a few really good ones while costing half or even a third of the price. So if you're planning your next build and your use case requires a lot of gaming or even working, 7800X3D, 14700K, these types of chips, this is definitely a very good option. Or in the very least, it is a very good option at a fraction of the price of any alternative. 35 bucks for this level of performance to me is just incredible, and I'm kinda sad that it took me so long to get one of those, because it really puts everything we have seen so far into a different light. For today, this is going to be it for Thermalright and their new price to performance king, the Peerless Assassin 120 SE. And on a side note, we also have a Discord server, so if you want to join, the link is down below. And of course, we still have channel membership, so if you're looking for a good way to sell your soul for an OG poop emoji, that's a pretty good way to go. Additionally, you can rest assured that the income will not only keep the channel afloat, but will also serve to finance further research about this cooler. Something is off with that price. Maybe the aluminum is stolen? Who knows? Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to continue, have a look at our take on the Deepcool Assassin 4, also an excellent air cooler. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.